Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So firstly, welcome to our first session in our introductory webinar series for Blustream. As we launch this exciting brand here in the United States, I'm Jason Fitzgerald, one of the product managers here at Blustream US. And today we'll take the time to briefly introduce Blustream, who we are and how we got started. But more importantly, we'll touch on the key benefits of the brand and why Blustream is poised to become your premier partner in the world of AV distribution. We'll also spend the time to dive into one of our more exciting product lines, which is Multicast video over IP. And in this introduction, we'll give you some insight into a different method of video distribution from things like HDBaseT, that's become the industry de facto standard for HDMI distribution. We'll learn how to transmit video and audio signals together over a network, as opposed to a dedicated Cat5, cable infrastructure. So your microphones will be muted for the duration of this presentation to stop any background noise from disturbing this presentation. And then we'll host a Q&A session immediately following this. But also please feel free to utilize the question aspect of this webinar, so you can get immediate questions answered, because we do have some specialists standing by to answer both product, and sales questions. So let's first talk about Blustream. So Blustream's route started out over 6 years ago in Melbourne, Australia, providing a small yet effective lineup of residentially oriented HDMI distribution products. Now the brand saw immediate success, and in the subsequent years, paid a lot of close attention to its partners, as both the brand and product lines expanded. Shown here are some of the key solutions that Blustream has brought to market since its founding. But more importantly, this portfolio of products and applications has since grown from residential to commercial solutions over these past 6 years. So during that time, Blustream has spanned its reach, to the UK and European markets, and has seen a lot of wide success. And finally, today, we are pleased to bring this globally recognized brand to the US. So one of the most exciting aspects for joining the Blustream team, at least for me, is really how quickly this brand has been able to adapt to technologies and feedback from its customers to bring new solutions to market. And today, new product development is progressing at a furious pace, to introduce even more solutions that we'll be announcing throughout 2021. So here we see the 3 cornerstones that have made Blustream successful in the global AV market. And these are the tenets that we will continue to build on here in the US: features, price, and reliability. When we talk about features or building in features into our products, we're not only talking about the problem-solving capabilities of our products to address the challenges in the field that are really brought to us from you, our partners, but also with the selection and application of the right technologies at the right time that will have the most effective impact in how our products are integrated, into real-world applications. With price, Blustream has always strived to be extremely competitive with both value and functionality against the other brands out there. But we've also taken steps as we go to market here in the US to make sure that our solutions can't be shopped around on the internet and can't be purchased directly by end users. We will be relying on you, our partners, to be both the champions for Blustream and the benefactors of the incredible margins and programs that we'll be setting up here in the US. And lastly, there is reliability. And as we see here in just a moment, Blustream products are nothing if not reliable. As I mentioned, these solutions have garnered global success in repeatable, consistent quality that has led to our products being used time and time again. So let's take a look at a few of these installations. Here we see things like Harrods in London, right, using a multicast system to run their digital signage solution and their world-famous Egyptian staircase. There's a total of 43 screens there. Gatwick Airport. We also have a familiar face here, Will Smith, who of course is not run off Blustream, but his London residence does use Blustream product. And one of the more important and more exceptional projects is the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics, which used approximately 90 transmitters going to nearly 900 receivers over 16 venues spanning even distances as long as 82 kilometers for that sporting event. So you can see here that Blustream products have been used globally, all over for different types of projects that we hope to bring successfully here now to the United States. So what does Blustream mean for you? Beyond features, price, and reliability, when you think of Blustream, we want you to think of these 4 key terms. Effortless, in terms of ease of installation and operation, as all Blustream products have been designed to be as plug and play as possible. Innovative, because we're building on the latest technology that's relevant to you today and for your installations and projects. Infinite, being able to address both small and large installations like the Olympics, and also integrated, as we offer a broad mix of third-party integration tools and drivers that'll work with the control system of your choice. So now let's start talking about Multicast. So Multicast is video over IP, and we do believe it is a new era of video distribution. Because with this system, there are virtually no distance limitations, making it both convenient and cost-effective to connect and access HDMI signals from across a home, to large-scale commercial and industrial installations. The visually lossless and ultra-low latency of Multicast justifies its overall performance versus the current market-leading technology for distributing AV signals. So integrators can utilize existing network infrastructure cabling, using only additional ports as required, and can eliminate excessive extension or new cabling having to be installed. All this makes for a cost-effective and highly stable installation environment that can easily be configured and controlled through a variety of different methods. So certainly, AV over IP is expected to dominate installations involving more than a handful of AV sources and screens, and unless already hardwired, matrix switcher and splitter installations are expected to continue to slow. So what is video over IP, or more commonly known as AV over IP? And that simply describes the delivery of HDMI content over a LAN infrastructure, including things like 4K 60 video, HD audio, and associated control signals. It offers a flexible solution that can deliver Ultra HD quality imagery to potentially thousands of screens within a single system. And even better, it's relatively simple to integrate and operate once you've learned the basics. Because Multicast is so versatile, AV over IP is quickly becoming an industry standard for installations in both commercial and residential markets. Its adaptability allows integrators to expand systems on a port-by-port basis, with system size limited only by the network bandwidth or the number of ports that are physically available to you. It's at this stage I'd like to point out that Multicast is a hardwired system, that due to the size of the packets we're sending across a network, can't be used wirelessly through standard access points or over a wide area network, where a hardwire connection isn't freely available. I'd also like to point out now that Multicast should be sat on its own individual network, rather than being integrated into an existing LAN or other equipment sharing the same bandwidth. You can, however, create a virtual LAN within an existing network for HDMI distribution. So then, why would you choose HDMI over IP over other methods of HDMI distribution that's currently available on the market? So then, let's look at a comparison to one of the most used technologies for AV distribution today, HDBaseT. Blustream has a wide range of HDBaseT equipment in our catalog, and it would be incorrect to say that Multicast or video over IP is going to retire HDBaseT, as there are still very relevant places for both technologies to exist in our market. There are pros and cons to using each, as shown here, and there'll be installations and projects where the relevancy of one will eclipse the other. However, stating this, we do foresee AV over IP taking more market share away from more traditional styles of AV distribution. For example, with Multicast, we have the ability to scale installations with ease, adding an input or an output as needed. And if an individual endpoint fails, these can be replaced very easily. Using standard IP technology to broadcast video signals also gives us an easy avenue to use existing equipment being deployed for IP networks today, such as patch panels and switches. On the other hand, HDBaseT still gives us an overall pixel quality advantage, being that in certain resolutions and timings are pixel perfect. Latency, although for a multicast system is approximately 1 frame, is nearly non-existent with HDBaseT. So as you can see, there are benefits for using both types of technologies, and we here at Blustream offer both solutions and are ready to help you decide which products and technologies are right for your customers based on their needs. So let's look at some of the potential applications for multicast video over IP. First up is residential installations, which has seen huge growth around the globe. And it makes a lot of sense considering the flexibility of scalability that this kind of system affords us. Operating as a video matrix with extension and converting capabilities makes this a perfect match for video distribution in homes. In commercial distribution systems, like the floor of the New York Stock Exchange shown here, the routing of AV is integral for displaying information systems. Again, the flexibility to scale displays and sources is an invaluable tool for these types of information systems, And with KVM capability that's built into Multicast, management of remote computers and workstations is a breeze. And as with commercial distribution systems, digital signage applications also benefit from AV over IP. Now, being able to address multiple displays and many that show mirroring content makes Multicast an ideal system to integrate into interactive signage installations. And coupled with the daisy chaining capability that's built into our receivers, makes extension of signaling extremely simple to deploy when needing to show the same content and cover large areas that digital signage typically needs to address. Command and control centers are also taking advantage of the benefits of AV over IP. With the need to quickly display and present a multitude of different sources and configurations on arrays of displays in a time-critical fashion, the Multicast system can make changes to a video wall array of grouped or single displays on the fly with lightning-quick switching times. And our last example would be the sports bar scenario, where large numbers of screens over potentially extended distances, including one or many video wall arrays, match the capabilities of Multicast perfectly. Here you can see multiple video walls, both individual and video walls that are being addressed with this system. And we can also combine things like Multicast and standard video distribution to make systems like this a reality. If we've got the same content showing on screens, for example, on the opposite side of this bar, we can use standard HDMI splitters to send that signal and split that off from the original video over IP system to show it on the other side, making it also a cost-effective type of solution. So let's have a look at the Blustream Multicast equipment, which consists of 3 hardware pieces: a transmitter, a receiver, and a control module. If you think of a traditional matrix, video over IP takes the individual components of that matrix, like inputs and outputs, and the system control or the logic, and splits this into individual components that can be added or subtracted as needed. Here, the IP200HD transmitter will accept an HDMI 2.0 signal and encode the video and audio content to make it suitable for transmission over an IP network. Utilizing a proprietary video codec, this signal is sent over an IP network for decoding by a transmitter. This product features PoE, or Power over Ethernet, which makes installation extremely simple when using a PoE-powered network switch, and reduces or eliminates the need for having a wall wart or separate power supply. Control capabilities aren't left out either, with both bidirectional IR and serial RS-232 capabilities that makes the control of devices on either side of the system simple and straightforward. Added to this is USB connectivity within the Multicast system, making it suitable for KVM applications for digital signage and workstation management. Audio breakout will demux or separate the audio stream from the HDMI source to be used with sound distribution systems. Separately, an audio input is also provided should you wish to use a different audio source with your video, with switching capability built into our control module and control interface. The receiver accepts the encoded signal and converts it back to HDMI for output to a display. Now, as with the transmitter product, the receiver is PoE powered and has audio breakout here as well. Added to that, we've got 2 USB Type-A ports, which are available for connecting keyboard and mice, and like the transmitter, has a segmented LED display that, while on the transmitter shows its ID or channel, here on the receiver, it displays which transmitter the receiver is currently routed to. There's the addition of a loop-out network port, which can be used to daisy-chain the incoming video signal to an additional receiver. And as I noted with the digital signage application, this eliminates the need to make home runs when using other types of traditional AV distribution equipment. So the last piece is our ACM200, or Advanced Control Module, for our Multicast system. So this unit, or ACM, acts as a bridge between our customer's existing home or business network and the video network. And basically, it's an intermediary that will accept control commands from one network and then seamlessly control the transmitters and receivers that are on the video network. And with this design, the video network that hosts all of the Multicast products are kept free of the existing network. And this keeps video traffic from clogging or consuming valuable bandwidth on an already existing system. The ACM also hosts its own web GUI, which is available from any browser on the control side of the network, and facilitates a complete setup wizard that's as simple as 6 clicks to complete once everything is connected. There's user-based control, which can give access to only select transmitters and receivers on the network, which, for example, will give you access to some users to manage day-to-day operations and leave other displays locked with their sources without the worry of accidental switching. The ACM200 also accepts IR, IP, and RS-232 commands for control the multicast system from a third-party control system. Okay, so for accessories, the RSU-2RU has been designed purely for use with multicast. So this 2RU height unit will house 4 transmitters or receivers in the customized slots to fit neatly into a 19-inch rack installation. In terms of specification for the multicast system, a lot of these we've talked about already throughout the presentation, but I will talk about some of the highlights. So for example, we do support 4K Ultra HD, that's 3840 by 2160 at either 30 Hz 444 or 60 Hz at a chroma subsample of 420. We do support HDR at lower frame rates at 24 Hz or 24 frames per second, and all of the high bitrate audio formats, Dolby Atmos, DTS:X included. We are virtually latency free, so roughly 1 frame or 16 to 17 milliseconds for a 60 Hz video, and fully routable video, IR, audio, RS-232 USB, PoE powered, and of course HDCP 2.2 compliant. And for the ACM200, or the Advanced Control Module, here are some of the call-out features and specifications of that unit. Of course, we have the web interface, which gives us the configuration capability with the setup wizard that can be completed in roughly 6 clicks. There is the drag and drop interface, which we have not talked about, but we will show you during that presentation on how easy it is to set up and manage using drag and drop. There's third-party control from a plethora of different manufacturers, as well as RS-232 and IR capability to control the unit. It's also PoE powered as well, and is supported by an iOS and Android app. In terms of how the multicast video over IP system operates, there are 4 operational modes. The most common will be matrix distribution with multi-point in to multi-point out, as well as video wall capabilities. Both of these operational modes require the use of a network switch, which is the most common application for these products, where we can utilize PoE power to power all the units, ACM and transmitters and receivers. There's also the ability to use this system in a one-to-one mode, basically functioning as an HDMI extender. In addition to that, you can also do one-to-many, and this utilizes that daisy chaining port that's on the receiver. When operating as a matrix or when utilizing a video wall, it'll be required to use a network switch. As these are the most common applications for multicast, a switch will almost always be required. The chosen network switch needs to have certain features for being able to host multicast on its network. As I noted before, the system has been designed to use a dedicated network that's separate from the customer's normal home or business network. So this ensures that data from one does not affect the performance of the other, and vice versa. We recommend using a Layer 3 network switch, as most Layer 3 switches feature the specifications that multicast requires to work flawlessly. However, there are some Layer 2 switches that are capable of handling the multicast groups. The list of switch manufacturers here are the brands that we've tested and validated. And for a complete listing of the models that are supported within each, please visit our Blustream US website. And for those switches that are supported and approved, we've taken the time to produce complete and easy-to-read guides for each. Each guide, like the sampling from the Cisco guide here, includes step-by-step instructions that'll get your switch ready in a matter of minutes. These are all downloadable from the Blustream US website as well in PDF format. I had mentioned switch requirements. Well, here they are. So what we'll need for a switch on this system or for multicast to work is a Layer 3 switch or Layer 2 switch with multicast capabilities. This means that it'll need to have IGMP snooping, which is the process of the switch listening into the network traffic, between the hosts and the routers. Jumbo frames or maximum transmission units are the Ethernet frames and will need to carry a payload of roughly around 9,000 bytes. And the typical packet frame size is roughly about 15, and this is found on most Layer 2, Layer 3 switches out there. QoS and immediate leave are also additional capabilities, which will help make sure that we have stability in the system to allow multicast to work. For larger systems, either for those that have more TX and RX units than you have ports available on a single switch, or where distance limits running the signal over copper, you may have the need to stack or cascade multiple switches. You need to take into account the aggregation of the data flow between the switches and understand how to properly connect the switches together to enable distribution throughout the system. There is a guide for stacking switches available to download from the Learn More About Video over IP page on the Blustream website. And shown here is just a snippet of how much bandwidth is taken up when using either a 4K or 1080p source. As I noted earlier, the ACM200 sits between the Multicast video network, which is the switch at the bottom of your screen, and the client's existing home or business network, the switch at the top of your screen. The ACM200 allows for commands to be issued from a third-party control system that sits on the client's home or business network. This bridges the information over the ACM to the video network without having to create any VLAN tunnels or clever programming on the installer's part. And lastly, on screen here, you'll see some of the drivers we've already written for Multicast. This includes RTI, Elan, Control4, and Crestron. And these drivers are available to download for free from the Blustream website today. Now, we're going to go ahead and get started with the live demo that shows you just how easy it is to get started with Video over IP Multicast from Blustream and the drag and drop interface. Okay, so in this live demo, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to drag over a web browser window, open that up, run it full screen. And all I've done here is navigate to the IP address of the ACM. So this assumes, of course, the ACM is connected to both the control network and the video network, and which, of course, the video network houses all the transmitters and receiver units, and the control network is the existing network, which is what I'm connected to right now. And on this initial setup screen for the setup wizard, you'll see is we have the ability to import a project. Of course, this is a saved project. If we wanted a cookie cutter a system, we could import that in, or from a backup, we could certainly do that. And the first thing I'm gonna do is just go ahead and click next. So that's one click. And our ACM200 connections, it's just on this screen asking us if we've made sure and connected the switch properly. So during this phase, of course, you can go and use this link to go to the network switch setup guides to, for the particular switch that you're using, and make sure that all the switch settings have been installed or initiated correctly. And we also have a diagram here of how the system is intended to be set up. So this is the same diagram that we saw just a few moments ago on how everything should be connected, where we have our home or business network switch here connected to the control input of the ACM. And then on the video side, we have that connected to our network switch that hosts all of our units. So now that everything's connected and powered, the only thing I'm going to do is, again, click the next button. And on the project setup screen, we're going to go ahead and hit Start Scan. This is going to scan the video network for all of the devices that are connected. In this case, I've got a 2x2 setup. So I have 2 transmitters and 2 receivers, and it's going to go ahead and find those units. And during this process, it's going to find them. It's going to automatically assign static IP addresses to the units. And again, this is separate from your current network. So of course, nothing is going on in terms of bandwidth bleeding over into that network. Everything is segregated and off now on its own. I know that I've got 2 inputs and 2 outputs, or transmitters and receivers. So once that's done, I can hit the stop button here, or stop scan, and then I can click the next button. And under the device setup, the ACM is going to go through a process of assigning those IP addresses. Here, the units may actually end up, rebooting themselves, like this transmitter here, as it's finishing to be set up. And on this screen is really the first set of options that we have to do any type of configuration. So in this case, you have the option to change the name of the transmitter and the receivers, which is a good practice. I certainly would recommend doing that. In this case, I'm just going to name it Transmitter 1 and Transmitter 2 just for ease of use. In this case, I'm going to call this Receiver 1 and Receiver 2. We have the option from a transmit side to change the EDID. This, of course, without diving into EDID too deeply, will give us some options as to what we want the source to output, if we want it to 1080p or 4K. In this case, we'll leave it to the default, which will be which will tell the source all the capabilities that the system is able to handle. On the receiver side, we have the option to manage or change the scalar output. So built into each receiver is the ability to scale the output. So of course, by default, it's set to pass through. So whatever's coming through from the source device is going to happen or pass through on then to the receiver or to your display. We do have the option, however, to set a particular output or a scaling output to force this. And we can do that if we want to get, for example, 1080p 60, or maybe we want 4K at 30 hertz, and it'll do either up or down scaling to match that output. There are some benefits to doing this actually. With the scaler engaged like this, if there's any mismatch of resolution when you're doing switches, let's say you're going from a 4K source to 1080p, if we've got the output scaler activated and connected, the switch times actually increase. So you can leave this on pass through, but of course you can engage a scaler on the output, and it should help with some system switching performance. There are some additional options here. We can of course view what's specifically connected to the source. So if I were naming this and I wanted to give it a proper name, I could see, okay, I know that this source, for example, is playing from a Blu-ray player that I have connected, and I could name this Blu-ray. And on the secondary player, I know this is a DirecTV or some other satellite box. I could name that appropriately as well. We also have the ability on the receiver side to do just some simple options. For example, if we needed to physically identify this unit in a rack, there's the ability to turn on or flash the LEDs on the front of the unit so we could physically find that unit. There is also an on-screen ID. Now I have a system set up here to my right with a display, but when this option is enabled, it'll actually show me the ID, which matches up with this ID for the receiver here. So again, you can leave everything default, and without touching anything, we can go ahead and click the next button. And that's it. That was click number 5. Finish will be click number 6. And as you can see, the system itself, in less than a couple of minutes with me talking, we've got the system completely set up. There are a couple of things, additional options that we can do. For example, fixed routing, back up the configuration that we would use for an import, for example, or even set up a video wall. But for this, demo, for all intents and purposes, we are finished. Now this is drag and drop control. This interface, which is also reflected in the iPhone or the iTunes and the Google Play Store and those applications, is a visual interface for us to actually manage switching. So with this, I don't have to look, for example, at the name of the units. I mean, we've got transmitter 1 and transmitter 2, but I can visually see what is specifically playing on those transmitters and what's showing on those receivers displays. So if I have a larger system, I can use this as a visual interface to manage routing. And how easy it is to, how easy it is to actually manage that route? Well, let's take a look. So on receiver 2, I've got transmitter 1 playing. If I wanted to switch to transmitter 2, I just click and drag and drop it. And that's it. That's done. If I want to switch this, let's say over back to transmitter 1 to the Blu-ray player, I just drag and drop that. There's also a handy all receivers option here. So if I wanted all of the receivers to show the same transmitter source, I can just click on that and it'll switch everything. And just like that, everything is picked up. These frames refresh roughly about every 3 seconds and constantly goes on. It's a very nice, easy way to manage your system routes. There's a lot of other advanced options which we won't cover in this particular demo, but you can see how powerful this interface is, and it's free. It comes with this system on the ACM ready to use. Now this interface, of course, because it runs in a browser, you can pick this up and use this from an iPad, a tablet, a mobile phone, or even a computer or other device, and this interface then is seamless across all of those. Video wall options, configuration functions, how we control those users, which we talked about earlier on what we can control. All of that is built into this ACM control interface and is part of the Multicast system. And there we go. For more information on the Multicast video over IP system from Blustream, please check us out on www.blustream-us.com, where you can get more information about the system, the network switch guides, the cascading guides, basically a full outline of our product. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with is support. Blustream is a dedicated global team, and currently to date we have engineers based around the world, and we're offering basically 24/6 global technical support. And coordinated efforts between the US, the UK, Australia, and Europe teams are able to offer this as a value add to you and your customers to get support when you need it, no matter day or night. In addition to that, we have a dedicated support team here in the US, and they can be reached at support at bluestream-us.com. There's a live chat feature on the website. So again, if you can't reach us via phone or you can't reach us via email, you can reach out to live chat, and there will be a support individual who can aid you in anything in terms of product sales or other types of questions. There's a video portal with a wealth of knowledge for Blustream products. In addition to that, there's the advanced learning portal. Now, this is a portal that you can sign up for on the Blustream US website today and get access to, with 37 different modules that talks about the technology, the implementation, features on Blustream products, and is an excellent resource not only for yourselves, but even your customers can go on and get signed up with this to get information about Blustream. And before we open it up to the Q&A portion of this webinar, I would ask that you follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. I've also included in here a QR code that'll directly link to the Blustream US catalog. So of course, if you're handy with your cameras and your phones now, you can go ahead and snap a quick pic of this, which will lead you to the website. Otherwise, of course, you can go directly to our website and download the catalog, which shows, of course, the entire range of series. We will keep going on with this series with talking about additional Blustream solutions and products, and hopefully everyone's going to stay safe. And let's go ahead and open it up for Q&A.